They came from a small town in Ukraine. Two brothers, with big dreams and strength in their hearts. Life was hard, but their spirit was even stronger. Vitaly is the older one, strong and unwavering. Volodymyr is the younger one, fast and stubborn. They were always together, walking side by side, dreaming of becoming the best. Since childhood, they fought, trained, overcame fears and doubts. Every blow was a promise to be by each other's side. When someone attacked Volodya, Vitaly did not hesitate. He always stood up for his younger brother, fought back. Their bond was stronger than any blows and defeats. This brotherly support made them not just fighters, but legends. From a small town, they entered the world arena, where every fight was a challenge. The path was difficult. Injuries, doubts, criticism, but they did not give up. Vitaly always supported Volodymyr, helped him hold on. They fought not only for titles, but for family and the pride of Ukraine. And the world saw how two brothers became a symbol of strength and honor. Their story is a story of faith, struggle, and brotherly love, which inspires even today. They were born in one of the few towns in Ukraine where time seemed to have stopped. Everyone knew each other, and life flowed according to simple laws: family, school, and their parents' work. There, amidst ordinary, everyday life, two boys grew up who never thought that one day their names would be heard on all continents. Vitaly and Vladimir Klitschko are two brothers who, since childhood, were connected not only by blood, but also by a dream. A dream that burned in their hearts like a fire and kept them awake on dark nights. They wanted to become the best. Not just the best in their city, but the best in the whole world. Of course, it sounded like a fairy tale then. Ukraine in the 80s and 90s was far from world arenas and loud victories. Their city was small, not very rich, but with a lot of people who knew what real work was. The boys' parents worked a lot, raised their sons with love, but also with severity, which laid the foundation for character. Sport became their salvation and a test. Vitaly was the first to come to boxing, bringing his younger brother with him. It was not a random choice. In their city, sport was one of the few ways to get out of the gray, everyday life. The boxing gym smelled of sweat, rubber, and dreams. It was there that they began to understand that life is not just a struggle against circumstances, but a struggle with oneself. Every punch, every workout was not just a physical exercise. It was a school of willpower and character. Vitaly, the eldest, was not only the stronger body, but also the soul of this small family. He became an example for Volodymyr. The younger brother looked at him with respect and was a little jealous of the determination that shone in the elder's eyes. Vitaly, in turn, felt responsible not just for himself, but for both of them. Sometimes in childhood, there were difficult moments when the older brother felt that someone wanted to encroach on the younger one. It didn't matter whether it was a small quarrel at school or more serious conflicts. Vitaly was always ready to protect Volodymyr. He was seen more than once fearlessly standing up for his brother, repelling those who dared to offend. It was an instinct that came from the depths of the soul, and it was he who helped them survive in the most difficult moments. Supporting each other wasn't just words. It was a life principle. Vitaly and Volodymyr knew that no one but themselves would make them reach the top. Every blow, every miss, every victory, they shared everything together. Their training became known throughout the city. Every guy dreamed of being like them. Vitaly worked on strength, Volodymyr on technique. They complemented each other, like two sides of the same coin. But the real path did not begin in the gym. It began in their hearts. Because it was their belief in their own strength and their brother's support that gave them unshakable confidence. When you know that someone is standing behind you who will not betray you, then you are ready to conquer any peaks. Over time, their names began to sound outside their hometown. The first competitions, the first international fights, all this was a great adventure and at the same time a test. They saw a different world, understood that the level of competition was very high. But they were not afraid. On the contrary, it only gave them strength. Vitaly and Volodymyr knew that they were not going to the goal alone. Their bond was unbreakable, even when they became rivals in the ring. Because behind every blow was not just an athlete, but a brother who was cheering and wanted to win not for himself, but for both of them. Once there was a moment that was forever etched in their memory. The younger brother was insulted outside the ring at one of the tournaments. It was not a simple fight, but a real attempt to humiliate, to strike at the pride. Vitaly found out about it, and did not leave the situation without attention. He was ready to drop everything and come to the rescue. It was a moment of true revenge, not for the sake of rage, but for the sake of defending honor. He showed the world that Vitaly was not just a boxer. He was an older brother who would not allow his younger brother to be offended. It was then that their brotherly bond reached a new level. Each of them experienced difficulties in their own way, but always remembered, behind their shoulders was a brother who would support, protect, and not allow their spirit to be broken. It wasn't easy. They walked through pain and setbacks. But, like any great story, their path was filled with lessons. They learned not to give up, even when things went wrong. Because in their hearts there was faith, in themselves and in each other. Behind each of their successes was not only training, but also years of struggle. Because the world does not like those who give up. And Vitaly and Volodymyr were ready to fight for their place under the sun. From a small town in Ukraine, they set out into the big world. Their names became known on all continents. But even then, at the heights of fame, they remained brothers, faithful and unwavering. They showed that true strength lies not only in their fists, but in unity. Their story is the story of two brothers who overcame everything together. From the first training to the last fight, they were one team. This bond gave them strength when all seemed lost. They taught the world that family is the most powerful motivator, and that true victory is victory together. Their names now sound like symbols of freedom and honor. And it all started with simple steps in a small Ukrainian town. This is a story about more than just boxing. It's a story about faith, about brotherly love, and how two boys could change the world. Fast forward to 2002. The Klitschko brothers were no longer just young guys. They were world-class boxers. Vitaly had already won the WBO heavyweight world title. Vladimir was not far behind. He was preparing for his big break. This was the year Vitaly fought Lamont Brewster to defend his title. This fight showed everyone that he was not just a champion, but a warrior who would not give up. Vitaly possessed a power that the best boxers in the world feared. Vladimir worked on himself at this time, gaining important experience. In 2002, he fought against Ace Bryant and won by technical knockout in the 8th round. This victory opened the door for him to the major league of boxing. The older brother was always there. When Vladimir entered the ring, Vitaly was his main mentor and defender. Even outside the ring, if someone tried to offend the younger one, Vitaly did not ignore it. It was not just brotherly concern, it was a duty to stand behind his brother like a mountain. Their strength was in unity. Vitaly and Volodymyr knew. Together they were an invincible team. This year was the beginning of a real struggle for world recognition. In 2002, the world began to hear the Klitschko's names more and more. Their fights were not just sports. They were stories of will, strength, and fortitude. Vitaly defended his titles. Volodymyr gained experience and confidence. Both knew that the most difficult tests lay ahead, but their brotherly support gave them the strength to overcome any obstacles. This was the era when two brothers from Ukraine began to change the world of boxing forever. And this is just the beginning of their legend. Fast forward to the spring of 2008. Back then, the boxing world was eagerly awaiting a big fight. The fight between Vitaly Klitschko and Samuel Peter. It wasn't just a defense of the WBC title. It was a fight for honor, for pride, and for the honor of Ukraine on the world stage. Vitaly had long been a symbol of strength and steadfastness. But this fight was a special test for him. His opponent, Samuel Peter, known as the Nigerian Nightmare, had a reputation as one of the strongest punchers in the world. His punches could stop anyone. But Vitaly was not afraid. He knew that not only he was behind him, millions of hearts of his compatriots and his closest people were behind him. Before the fight, Vitaly often recalled the words of his brother Volodymyr. Volodymyr was always there, supporting, instructing, inspiring. In those moments when doubts could take over the mind, Volodymyr reminded him that they were not alone. They were part of a big family, part of a country that believed in them. The fight itself began with a frenzied energy. Samuel Peter tried to quickly break the champion's resistance. His blows were powerful, and Vitaly felt the world around him start to shake several times. But each time he returned to the fight, even stronger, even more determined. Fans in the hall and thousands of spectators in front of the screens watched every move. For Ukraine, this fight was more than a sport. It was a fight for hope, for the belief that our country can enter the world arena and win. Family support was the foundation for Vitaly. His mother, who raised two champions with great love and patience, always prayed for their success. His father, although strict, was proud of his sons every step, and especially his brother's support was what helped him endure even the hardest blows. When Vitaly knocked Peter down in the 8th round, it was more than just a technical moment. It was a victory of willpower over doubt, a victory of brotherly support over loneliness. This knockdown became a symbol that the Ukrainian spirit is invincible, that two brothers can lead an entire country. After the fight, when Vitaly raised his hands, there was a smile on his face not only of a winner, but of a man who knows the value of every minute of the fight. His gaze met with Vladimir, who was standing on the side of the ring. There was pride, respect, and an unbreakable bond that had kept them together throughout their lives. This match solidified their reputation not only as champions, but as symbols of Ukraine, its strength and hope. They showed the world that even from the smallest town, one can rise to the top if one has faith, family support, and brotherly love. And although the path was long and difficult, each victory was a step towards making Ukraine famous in the world of boxing and sports in general. When you step into the ring, you're not just fighting the person in front of you. You're fighting everything that's behind you. Your past, your fears and hopes. That part of you that bears the name of your country. And for Vladimir Klitschko, this fight in 2014 was just that, a fight not just for the title, but for all of Ukraine. He stood in the center of the arena in New York, under the watchful eyes of thousands of fans. In front of him was Bryant Jennings, a young and strong contender who was full of ambition. Vladimir was the champion and felt the burden of this status. Because his every move was seen not just as a fight, but as a performance of Ukraine on the world stage. Ukraine was going through difficult times at that time. The war in the East, political instability, all this gave every Ukrainian a feeling of anxiety and uncertainty. But for Volodymyr, it was an even greater incentive. He knew that his victory was a ray of light, a sign that even in dark times it was possible to remain strong and invincible. During the fight, Volodymyr demonstrated skill, strength, and a cool head. He did not succumb to the opponent's provocations, did not allow emotions to prevail. Every blow was accurate and balanced. In the 5th round, he knocked out Jennings, and it was not just a victory, it was a message to all of Ukraine. After the fight, Volodymyr spoke about his country more than once. He emphasized that each of his fights is an opportunity to show the world the true power of Ukraine. He said that he wants to inspire young people, to be an example for those who fight for a better future, even when everything seems against you. This struggle became part of a great story that Volodymyr and his brother Vitaly have been writing for years, stories of strength of spirit, brotherly support, and love for their homeland. They showed that sport is not just about championships and titles. It is a way to speak the truth to the world, a way to bring light and hope. But there were no easy enemies on the path to triumph. And the most difficult for Vladimir was Tyson Fury, a boxer who burst into their world with new energy and an unconventional style. Fury was a big, tall, and unusual fighter who was not afraid to challenge legends. Their fight was not only about fists, but also about spirit. Fury became a symbol of a new generation that sought to change the rules of the game. For Vladimir, it was a test, not just a fight, but a struggle with his own doubts and fears. A fortune teller who repeatedly questioned his status as a champion. The first fight between them in 2015 was a shock to everyone. Fury won and took the titles from Vladimir, putting his entire career in doubt. It was a moment of downfall, but also a moment that showed Klitschko's true strength of spirit. He didn't give up. Volodymyr worked on himself, preparing for a rematch. Because for him, this fight is not just a sport. It's a personal matter, a matter of honor, a matter of Ukraine. The story of the Klitschko brothers is a story about how a small country can emerge onto the world stage and become legends. It is a story about faith, brotherly support, and unwavering will. And even in the darkest moments, they stayed together because they knew that together, anything is possible. When the end of a great story comes, it is always sad and difficult. For the Klitschko brothers, this moment came gradually, but no less painfully. The era they had built for years, conquering the world, gradually began to change. Volodymyr and Vitaly are two names that have been synonymous with strength, confidence, and steadfastness in the world of boxing for decades. They held titles, fought for the honor of Ukraine, and inspired millions. But time is inevitable. For Vladimir, who has experienced ups and downs, the fight with Tyson Fury was the last big test. After defeats and difficult moments, he understood that it was time to step back, to make way for new heroes. Vitaly, the older brother, had long since left the ring due to injuries and time, but his spirit remained strong. He moved into politics, fighting for the future of Ukraine in a different way, not with his fists, but with words and actions. It wasn't easy for both of them to accept that times were changing, but they knew that their story wasn't just about boxing. It was about the legacy they left to their country and the world. This legacy is faith in oneself and one's loved ones. It is a story about how from a small Ukraine one can rise to the top if one sticks together and does not give up. The end of the Klitschko era is not the end of their influence. They became symbols, legends, who inspire even today. Their names will remain forever in the hearts of fans and in sports history. It was a journey of struggle, victories, and losses. But most importantly, it is a story of brotherly love, support, and strength that will never fade. They showed the world Ukraine from a different side, strong, proud, and unwavering. And this is their most important title.